Welcome everyone to Young at Heart, Friday night Young at Heart, session number 174. And I'm Father James DeLuzio with the Paulist Fathers, ready, willing, and able to offer you nursery rhymes, stories, songs, folklore. That's new. Mother Goose, Aesop's fables, Lewis Carroll, limericks, larks, and such, to keep us all young at heart. Today's selection is part one of that great Grimm's fairy tale, perhaps the most well-known of all of them, Hansel and Gretel. So without further ado, let us begin. At the edge of a great forest, there once lived a poor woodcutter with his wife and 2 children. The little boy was called Hansel, and the little girl, Gretel. There was never much to eat in the house, and once, during a famine, the woodcutter could no longer put bread on the table. At night, he said to his wife, "What will become of us? How can we provide for our poor children and ourselves? There is not enough here to eat." "Listen to me," said the wife. "Tomorrow, at the break of day, we'll take the children out into the darkest part of the wood. We'll make a fire for them and give them each a piece of bread, and then we'll go about our work and leave them alone. They'll never find their way back home, and we'll be rid of the responsibility." "No," said her husband, "I won't do it. How could I have the heart to leave the children all alone in the woods, when the wild beasts would surely come and tear them to pieces?" "You fool," said the woman. "All 4 of us will starve to death then. You might as well start planing the boards for our coffins." She didn't give the man a moment's peace until he finally relented. "But still I feel sorry for our poor children," he said. The 2 children hadn't been able to sleep, for indeed they were awake with hunger, and they heard everything that their stepmother had said to their father. Gretel wept bitter tears, but Hansel said to her, "Be quiet, Gretel. Stop worrying. I'll figure out something." And as soon as the old folks had fallen asleep, he got up, he put on his little jacket, and he opened the lower half of their door, and he slipped out. The moon was shining brightly, and he could see clearly as if it were day. And he saw white pebbles in front of their house that were glittering like silver coins. Hansel, a clever lad, stooped down and put as many as he could fit into the pockets of his jacket. And then he went back and he said to Gretel, "Don't worry, dear little sister, sleep peacefully. God will not forsake us." And he too went to sleep. At daybreak, just before the sun had risen, the wife came and woke the 2 children. "Get up, you lazy bones! We're going into the forest, and you must come with us." The wife gave each child a little piece of bread and said, "Here's something for lunch, but don't eat it now. Wait, because you're not getting anything else." Gretel put the bread under her apron because Hansel's pockets were filled with pebbles. Then they all set out together on the path into the forest. After a while, Hansel stopped to look back at the house. And he did that again and again and again. "Hansel," said his father, "why are you always stopping and staring?" Watch out, and don't forget what your legs are for." "Oh, father," said Hansel, "I'm looking at my white kitten sitting up on the roof. She's trying to bid me farewell." The woman said, "You fool, that's not your kitten. Those are the rays of the sun shining on the chimney." But Hansel had not been looking at the kitten. He had been taking the shiny pebbles from his pocket and dropping them on the ground every so many feet. When they arrived in the middle of the forest, the father said, "Children, go gather some wood. I'll build a fire so you won't get cold." And when the children brought back some timber, some twigs and sticks and things, the father made a fire for them, for the air was getting cold, for it was that time of year. And then Hansel and Gretel sat by the fire. "Lie down here, children, and get some rest," said the woman. "We're going into the forest to chop more wood. When we're done, we'll come back to get you." The children sat by the fire, and at noon they ate their little pieces of bread. Since they could hear the sounds of an axe, they were sure that their father was close by. They were, of course, hoping that their father would change his mind. But it wasn't an axe they heard. It was a branch that their father had fastened to a dead tree, and the wind was banging it back and forth. They were sitting there for such a long time that their eyes closed from fatigue, and soon they fell fast asleep. When they awoke, it was pitch dark, and Gretel began to cry, and said, "Well, now we're lost. How will we ever get out of the woods?" Hansel comforted her. "Just wait until the moon rises. We'll find our way back." And when the full moon had risen, Hansel took his sister by the hand and followed the pebbles, which were shimmering in the moonlight like minted coins. Sparkling they were, and it pointed the way home. They walked all night long and arrived at their father's house just as dawn was breaking. They knocked on the door, and when the woman opened the door and saw that it was Hansel and Gretel, she said, "You wicked children! Why did you sleep so long in the woods? We thought we were never going to find you." But the father was overjoyed, and because he had been upset at how he had abandoned his own children in the forest. Not long after that, every square inch of the country was stricken with famine, and one night the children could hear what the mother was saying to the father when they were in bed. "We've eaten everything up again, and all that's left is half a loaf of bread, and the jig's up. The children have to go. This time we'll take them deeper into the forest, so that they won't find their way out. Otherwise, there's no hope for us." Her husband's heart was heavy, and he thought, "It would be better if you shared the last crumb of bread with your children." But the woman would not listen to anything he said. She fussed and berated him. In for a penny, in for a pound, and since he had given in the first time, he had to give in the second time. The children were still awake and had heard the conversation. When their parents had fallen asleep, Hansel got up and wanted to go out to pick up some pebbles, as he had the last time. But the woman had anticipated this, and she locked the door. Hansel couldn't get out. But he comforted his sister and said, "Don't cry, Gretel. Just sleep peacefully. Let us pray. The Lord will protect us." Early the next morning, the woman came and woke the children up. They each got a little piece of bread, this time even smaller than the last. And on their way into the woods, Hansel crushed the bread in his pocket, for it was stale and dry, and he would stop to scatter crumbs on the ground. "Hansel, why are you stopping and staring?" his father asked. "We've got to keep going." "I'm looking at my little dove, the one sitting on the roof. She's trying to bid me farewell," said Hansel. "Fool," said the woman, "that isn't your little dove. Those are the rays of the morning sun shining up on the chimney." After a while, Hansel had scattered all the crumbs along the path they had taken, and the woman took the children even deeper into the woods, where they had never been before in their lives. Once again a large fire was built for them, and Mother said, "Don't move from there, children. If you get tired, you can sleep for a while. We're going into the forest to chop wood. Maybe we'll find someone who may want to buy some. And in the evening, when they were done, when we're all done," she said, "in the evening, when we're all done, we'll come back to get you." At noon, Gretel shared her bread with Hansel, who had scattered bits of his piece on the path. Then they fell asleep. The evening went by, but no one came to get the poor children. They awoke, and when it was pitch dark, Hansel comforted his sister by saying, "Just wait, Gretel. When the moon rises, we'll be able to see the crumbs of bread that I scattered, and then they will point the way home." When the moon rose, they set off, but they couldn't find the crumbs, because the many thousands of birds flying about in the forest and over the fields had eaten them. Hansel said to Gretel, "We'll find the way back." But they didn't find it. They walked all night long, and then another day, from early in the morning until late at night, but they could not find their way out of the woods. And they got more and more hungry, for they had nothing to eat but a few berries they had found on the ground, for the birds had eaten them all as well. When they became so tired that their legs would no longer carry them, they lay down under a tree and fell asleep. And there, my friends, I shall leave us. Hopefully that you too shall get a good night's sleep, for now it is 9:11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's very interesting in this version, which is pretty much an authentic English translation of the Brothers Grimm, that we did find that the woodcutter's wife is a stepmother. But I recall from my childhood, and even a number of illustrated editions that we had in our family, it always was a real mother, which always made the story even more shocking, that a real mother would do it, such a thing. But we'll continue with the story next time, and it might even take us into 3 sessions as I'm looking. There's quite a bit more. I think it shall. And on the 3rd night, I'll also offer you just some pointers of variations. My favorite one comes from the libretto of the opera Hansel and Gretel by Engelbert Humperdinck. I loved what he did it, and believe it or not, his is my favorite version. But you'll have to tune in and to find out why. Meanwhile, if you go out, wear your masks, please, and stay healthy, keep safe, and God bless. Good night, everyone.